they were taking me into emergency surgery, and it's not until afterwards I found out that I had lost 1.8 liters of blood, so I was bleeding internally. So by the time Paul got back to the hospital, they were in the admin trying to find my husband because at that stage they didn't know if I was going to make it. So by the time he got back to the hospital, they'd pulled him in. We sort of met in the corridor. He had to sign my life away, and we had to say our goodbyes before I could go into surgery.
Welcome to Beyond the Pain, the podcast that explores what it really takes to break free from chronic pain and reclaim your life. I'm your host, Lee Brandon, and someone who's spent over 2 decades helping people get to the root cause of pain that no one else could explain. Whether you're dealing with long-term back issues, joint pain, nerve discomfort, or mysterious symptoms that just won't go away, this show is here to help you go deeper. Because beyond the pain, there's clarity, strength, and power waiting for you. Each week, we'll uncover the physical, emotional, biochemical, and energetic causes of pain and how to transform them. Let's dive deep into this week's episode. Today, we're diving into a topic that affects so many women, yet is still so misunderstood, overlooked, or minimized. And that's pelvic pain, endometriosis, and fertility. My guest today is Kelly O'Brien, and she brings an incredibly raw, powerful, and deeply personal story. In this conversation, she shares the events that led to a life-threatening medical emergency and the fear, the shock, and the moment she genuinely believed she might not make it through. She talks about saying goodbye to her husband before being rushed into emergency surgery and the emotional aftermath of facing her own mortality. But this episode isn't just about the trauma. It's about resilience, the strength it takes to rebuild, and the importance of truly listening to the body when it's trying to get our attention. And of course, we look at the wider picture. Why pelvic pain is so often dismissed, how endometriosis impacts fertility, and what women are left to navigate when conventional answers fall short. It's a powerful and important conversation, and I know it will speak to anyone who has ever felt unheard or misunderstood in their health journey. So let's dive in. Kelly, welcome to Beyond the Pain. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you and your audience.
Yeah, Kelly, I always like to start each episode at the beginning. So can you take us through your own journey? So what was it like navigating a demanding corporate leadership role whilst dealing with IVF, endometriosis, and multiple surgeries? And what toll did keeping all of that hidden take on your body and mind?
Mm, that's a great point. I think the toll was the biggest thing, keeping it secret. And I say I was living a double life in ways, which was definitely what I was doing. So in the mornings, I would go and have scans and blood tests or procedures, and then I would go to work and run corporate meetings and lead teams. So it was definitely difficult. I think anyone that's been through IVF or knows anyone that's been through IVF can understand that when you're in it, IVF and having a baby is all you want and all you think about. So having to try and put that to the side and continue on with what I'm meant to be doing for work, it took a bit to get used to, but we got there, but it definitely did take a toll.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. My teacher, colleague, friend, Paul Check, has always said that he finds that most of the women he comes across with endometriosis often take on a male role. And quite often that is in a corporate leadership environment.
That's
I think
interesting.
that's
That's
really
really
interesting,
interesting.
right? Because that's you right there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was in a corporate role and in an industry which was quite male dominated. So to hear that comment really makes me sit back and think about it. And 100%, that is correct.
Mm, very interesting. So the surgeries you had, was that for endometriosis?
It was. So I actually didn't know that I had endometriosis until I started the IVF process. It wasn't until probably a couple of years into the journey that our doctor suggested that we have some checks and I go in and just ensure that there was no issues within my body that was affecting us falling pregnant or losing pregnancies, because at that time it was, nothing was wrong with myself or Paul. So when I went through that process, I remember going in just for my standard check, and going through that surgery and coming out being told that I had stage 4 endometriosis. So I actually didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what
Mm,
endometriosis was, and I didn't know what stage 4 meant. So that was the journey with the endometriosis side. I then had to go and have a major surgery for that. That was in the middle of COVID, which I was in hospital for 5 nights and it was no one could visit me. Um, so that was the start of that journey. And then, you expect when you have that surgery that you will be okay and be able to function normally for probably about a year or so or two and not have that affect you anymore. But mine actually came back more aggressively within probably
mm,
6 to 8 months.
mm. Yeah, I did a really good episode with a lady called Tanya Borofsky, all about female pelvic pain and endometriosis, which is a really, really interesting episode. So you found out that you had endometriosis because you were going through the IVF process. So I'm guessing you didn't have any symptomology from the endometriosis. Like there was no pelvic pain, for instance.
There was pain, but I think that anyone, in my generation, we grow up thinking that that's just normal. It's now I
Mm,
understand that that's not normal. My husband often says that he believes I've got a pretty good pain threshold, and there were times where he would look at me and I was in pain, but I would just continue on with my day. I'd go to work. It was painful, but it wasn't anything that I thought was serious. I just thought that was normal.
mm, mm. It's actually crazy, isn't it? If you think about it, you think, you know, we've come to the point in society where we think that being in pain is normal. I
Yeah,
mean, yes, it's a normal response to, you know, if you bang your big toe or you put your hand on something hot or, step on a nail, right? That's a normal response. But just to have, everyday pain, it's kind of crazy to think that that's normal because, for me, pain is your body's way of trying to communicate something to you, right?
definitely.
And
That's something that I've learned lately. That's that's a normal process that your body is trying to tell you that something is wrong or you need to change something.
mm, yeah. And, in the discussion I had with Tanya, and, I've read some really, really great books on the subject of endometriosis and pelvic pain. And, um, some people can have endometriosis and just have no symptoms whatsoever.
Correct.
And, and also having surgery doesn't necessarily get rid of the problem, right? Which
Hmm.
I'm guessing was your experience.
Yeah. I mean, I got rid of it for a period of maybe 6 to 8 months. But as I said, it came back more aggressively than what I had at the beginning. So it doesn't, what I've learned is the surgeries may not always fix the problem.
Mm,
Something I often talk about as well is I think that, everyone is different and we need to work out what's best for our bodies individually and complete that research to understand what would work best.
mm. Yeah, I can't remember the actual figure now, but there's a figure that kind of states how successful surgery is for endometriosis. It's pretty small. I don't know. I'm plucking a figure out of the air, but it seems to be the figure in my head, and it could be wrong. Is 30%. About
Hmm.
30% is successful. I mean, if someone said to you, "Oh, you've got a serious condition, we can do surgery on you, but there's a 70% chance you're going to die," would you go for the surgery? You
No
wouldn't,
way.
would you?
No,
You
not
know?
not knowing what I know now, especially knowing the process and
Mm,
knowing the recovery. And, even after you wake up from that surgery, the pain that you're feeling as well, it is very invasive. So
mm.
that's where I think that when we're looking at these things in our bodies, we really need to look at all different options.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, the key when you're in pain, as I said, it's the body's way of trying to communicate something to you. And so, and I'm not suggesting surgery shouldn't be an option, right? It should always be an option for certain conditions. But ultimately, the key thing for anyone to do is to understand what the message is, right? What is the root cause of the pain? Is it a deficiency in surgery, right? And I say that kind of flippantly, but and of course, surgery can be really useful in certain situations.
Yeah, definitely.
But with a condition like endometriosis, for me, the question is, well, why do you have that?
Mm.
What's your body trying to tell you? And let's get to the root cause of the problem. Um, so just getting back to my original question. So obviously you're going through IVF, you're having these endometriosis, you're having the surgeries. What kind of toll did it take on your body and your mind?
Body-wise, especially with IVF, and anyone that has been through it would know the amount of drugs that you are putting into your body, you have no control of your body. I think I put on around 14 to 15 kilos. So I'm back to
Wow.
myself now, but no matter what you do, you hold that weight, you hold the water, you hold everything that those drugs are putting into your body. So for someone that prides themselves on how they look and works hard and exercises, goes to the gym and runs, it took a toll on my mental health in that space. As well as you just don't feel yourself. You just feel it's such an invasive process as well. It's kind of one of those out of body experiences where you don't feel like it's your body. You just feel like you're putting it through what it needs to do to get that outcome that you're hoping to get. So that was a really difficult part um, to go through and to navigate through as well.
How did you how did you manage to, I guess, keep that mask on in your corporate world?
I think I've always been quite good at separating work and personal. I've never been one that mixes the two. I'm very lucky as well that I have such a supportive husband. He was there through everything, whether that was just a blood test or something more serious. So I feel like I had the support network through him, my family, my best friends. But I guess for me, it really became a routine process for me. I'm quite a routine person. I think when you're in a corporate position such as I was, you do become quite routine, and it just fell into my routine. So the actual process was easy for me. So when I went to work, it was that separation that I could have
Mm,
and I guess get away from what else I was doing. Because when
mm,
I left work, you started thinking about the process and the outcomes and what was happening because it really does run your life.
mm. Yeah, it was almost like work was an escape from that, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And at the time, I wasn't exercising a lot because, for one, I didn't feel great. I'm lucky I wasn't someone that had a lot of side effects, as in I didn't change as a person or things like that, but I just didn't feel myself and I didn't have that drive to go and exercise as much. And even if I would, I knew that it wasn't, mentally it would have been good for me, but physically I wasn't feeling what I needed to feel or getting out what I wanted to get out of it. So Um, yeah, I wasn't getting that mental release, I don't think, with physical activity.
Mm,
And you're just so in it. It's a really weird situation to be, especially if there's not a lot of people around you that you know of that's going through the same process, because it is a lonely process to go through. You feel like, in my opinion and my situation, I felt like I was a failure so many times. We did 14 rounds and
wow.
yeah, it was one after the other, whether that was just it was not working or we would have a miscarriage. And I just felt like I was letting my husband down, my family down, my friends down, myself down. You just feel, that you can't do it. And as a woman, that's a really hard thing. And I think as a professional like I am, I'm used to controlling everything that I do and having that control, and not being
Mm,
able to control this situation was something that I had to learn how to let go of.
mm. Yeah, it's interesting. I remember some years ago now, um, a guy that I'd worked with previously suggested I work with his wife. They were trying to have a baby, but they weren't able to. You know, he passed all his checks, but she didn't pass all her checks. So he said, "Look, could you help her?" And they'd already had 2 rounds of IVF.
Wow.
Now, I believe at the time in the UK, you were able to get 1 round on the National Health Service, but then after that, you
Oh,
pay for
wow.
your own.
Okay.
Um, I think it was 2 before they came to me. It was 2 or 3. And, I started working with her and, I ran hormonal panels on her, and there was definitely some clear issues with her hormone balance. And so we started working on nutrition and lifestyle. And we even had to, well, I suggested she made quite drastic changes to her work schedule as well. So she ended up going part time. Um, Told her to stop long distance running because her body was already overly stressed.
Yeah.
Got her to take up yoga instead. Um, and they did another round of IVF. I think we were about 3 months in, if I remember right. And I remember the husband ringing me one day and saying, "Look, this has failed." And she's just so distraught. She can't even talk to you. Like, can we
Mm.
just freeze the program for a while? And I was like, yeah, fine, fine, fine. And I said, look, just tell her from me, just keep doing what she's doing because she's doing great in terms of the program she was on with me. And if she can, just try and just take a break from even thinking about getting pregnant for just switch off for a while. And then when she's ready, maybe a few months time, tell her to come back and we'll start working together again. And so I really kind of related that to what you were saying. I kind of I've seen that myself.
Mm.
Um, the good thing was a few months after I had that conversation with the husband, he rang me back and he said, "I've got some good news." He said,
Oh.
we're pregnant," and they've actually got two kids now. I think the oldest one must be getting on for 10 now.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, I know I kind of know how destructive that can be when you're really trying. I mean, 14 rounds.
Yeah.
That must have been really tough.
It
I
was,
can't even
and
I can't
you,
even imagine. I can't even imagine how tough that must have been. People often ask me what makes my approach different. The truth is, I don't look at pain through a single lens. I look at your movement, nutrition, gut health, stress load, sleep patterns, emotional stress, and nervous system because pain is rarely caused by just one thing. Once we look at everything together, the path forward becomes clear. If you'd like help understanding your unique pain pattern, book a discovery call at bodycheck.co.uk/consultation. That's bodycheck.co.uk/consultation. Now, back to the show.
yeah, and you touched on your nutrition and different things to try. And I think for myself, I tried everything from acupuncture to my nutrition to cutting down exercise. The only thing I couldn't really change was work. Whether that played a part in it, I'm not sure. But, I think coming towards the end, it was it was so difficult because you just, you're doing the surgeries, you're getting rid of the endometriosis, you're doing all of these things and it's just not working. And that's where we got to a point where Paul actually stepped in and said, enough's enough. We need to have a break. We got engaged a year before we started trying to have a baby. So we were actually engaged for a few years before we were even looking to get married because we put our life on hold. We're a couple that loves to travel. We're active. We love doing all these things. But when you're in IVF, you are literally living month by month, and it is completely consumed with doctor's appointments and drugs and things like that. So you really can't have a life outside of that. So for 3 years with my 14, because it took about 3 years with 14 rounds and it was literally back to back, we didn't have a life. So Paul jumped in and said, our 14th round, we need to look at having a break. I want you to have a break. I want you to live life, get back to being yourself and happy. And as you said, try not to think about it. It's hard when you are that person, though. A lot of people, and you hear a lot of stories where the women say, if someone says to me, don't stress, or, and it is true, but everyone's trying to help. And that's the angle that I took, that if anyone had an opinion or said something to me, I understood that they were coming from a really good place. And it's hard for as much as it's hard for the person going through it, it's also hard for the people watching them go through that. And that's something that I've
Mm,
learned.
mm. You mentioned a turning point. What was the turning point?
So the turning point was our 14th round, actually. So we went in with the thought process that that was going to be our last round for a while, and that we would have a break and do some travel. I went in for my egg collection. Everything was going well. As I said, it was a standard routine for me. Paul picked me up after my my little surgery that I had with the egg collection. We were on our way home. We literally had just left the clinic. We were on our way home, and I was on the phone to my mum, actually. And I said to Paul, I don't feel well. And I just started passing out. He stopped the car and called the ambulance, called the clinic straight away and said, we're coming back. We need to get an ambulance. Long story short, they took me to the hospital. They said to Paul, look, don't stress. Her vitals seem fine. We're going to check her over, but don't rush to get to the hospital. So he came home and sort of milled around, fed our dog, got to the hospital. But by that stage, I had gotten to the hospital and I was feeling fine. And one of the team leader doctors came in and said, I'm just going to check your stomach and see what's going on. So they put a scan on me, and as they put it on, all you could see was black. It just waves, motion in my stomach. I personally didn't know what that meant. They obviously did. So she threw the machine away and said, get her into surgery now. It's very weird how your body responds to trauma or something happening. In that moment, my body crashed. So I was in and out of consciousness. They were taking me into emergency surgery, and it's not until afterwards I found out that I had lost 1.8 litres of blood. So I was bleeding internally. So by the time Paul got back to the hospital, they were in the admin trying to find my husband, because at that stage they didn't know if I was going to make it. So by
Wow.
the time he got back to the hospital, they'd pulled him in. We sort of met in the corridor. He had to sign my life away, and we had to say our goodbyes before I could go into surgery. So one of the things that I remember, and I touched on it previously, was, being someone that has control. And in that moment, I remember laying in the bed and literally not having, I didn't, because I didn't have anything in me. Paul said that I just looked not in a good place, but I couldn't even lift a finger. I was that drained. So they were putting blood transfusions into me as I was going into surgery. So the last thing I remember getting into surgery was they had the oxygen mask on me and I started to suffocate. So I couldn't actually breathe. And I said to the doctor, and I knew everyone was, I could see there was doctors everywhere. There's probably about 20 people in the room. And I knew I was in amazing hands. But the last thing I remember is her saying, hurry up, she's drowning in her own blood. We need to get her under. So that feeling of, not being able to breathe is something that I don't think that I will ever not feel. It's something that I've had to work through in relation to, trauma and near-death experiences. But, it was the most scary thing that I, Paul, my family, friends have ever been through. And then I woke up in ICU and I was in ICU for 6 days.
Wow. Wow, I wasn't expecting to have this conversation today.
Uh,
So that,
it,
I mean, that's just huge. Looking back, did that experience in any way kind of reshape your perspective on life and, and the way that you live life?
100%. When I got out of hospital, I was a shell of a person. Um, it took me I was back at work quite quickly because I think my usual just get back to it kicked in. But I had to do a lot of work with specialists to psychologists and things to ensure that I didn't or I wasn't triggered by things. Something I've learned working with these professionals is everyone is different. And when you go through a trauma such as that, something will in life trigger you. And if you don't do the work before that, it could really, really impact you in a bad way. So I did a lot of work pretty much from the beginning to make sure that in 10, 20 years' time, I'm okay. So for me, that really made me take a step back and look at my life as a whole, what I wanted. Work was a big one. Because at that point and before this had happened, I found that I wasn't as fulfilled in my role. And something that I'd always loved was wellness and looking after myself, as you said. And I'd been doing that. Well, I've been doing wellness for probably 10 years, the saunas and things like that. So my dream was always to get into that side of things and to be able to look at sharing my experience in a way that could help other people. So I took a step back and thought, what can I do and how can I make an impact? And decided to then start my own wellness company.
Mm. Just going back a little bit, obviously, I'm still recovering from what you went through, right? I'm still a bit shocked myself. That must have been obviously a massive thing for you. Did it change the way that you looked at like your own health? And if so, did you make any changes after that experience? If you've tried everything, stretching, physio, hands-on treatment, injections, and your pain still hasn't shifted, you're not alone. Most people try to fix pain from the outside when the real drivers are happening inside the body. Gut irritation, food sensitivities, nervous system overload, these often keep pain switched on. When you calm inflammation, the body can finally settle. The Pain-Free Plate gives you 7 foods that help support that shift. Download your free guide at bodycheck.co.uk. That's bodycheck.co.uk/pain-free-plate. All right, back to the episode.
It did. I understood to get through something like that, or even just life, even just the normal day-to-day pressures. You can't always do it by yourself. You
Mm.
may need people like yourself, or in my case, I had a really good friend who was a masseuse, and worked a lot on my body. And because I had a lot of internal things that I had to work on to recover, she introduced me to red light and infrared therapy, which was a massive turning point for my recovery. But really aligning myself with people I mentioned before, not just physically, but also for my mental health. I think it's something that people don't always, they may know that they need that assistance, but they won't always go looking for it because it can be a sign. Some people interpret that as a sign of weakness. I am quite a strong person. I will do as much as I can myself, but in this instance, I knew that I needed help. I knew that even if it's things like ensuring that I was exercising every day. I've got a beautiful dog that I probably was missing out on that time of just going for a walk at the beach with her, and little
Mm,
things like that, and the time with Paul. So really living in that moment, because I feel that when you're in these processes like IVF or anything that you're doing, it can be really easy to fall into that trap of looking at what was, so living in the past, and then looking at the future, what you want to happen, but not living in what you have now. And that's something that I feel I look back on now and think, wow, I have 3 years of my life that I wasn't living in that moment, which is really
mm,
sad.
mm. Yeah, there's a really great book, isn't there, called The Power of Now? Because that's all
Ah,
there is. All there is now, right?
yeah, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
The future's not here. The past
No.
isn't here. The only thing that is here is now,
And I
right?
always say that to people now. We don't know what's going to happen. I'm an example of that.
Mm. So, so after your, let's call it your near death experience, did you change exercise? Did you change nutrition? And obviously, you said you got into infrared sauna, you got into red light therapy. So, did you change those things, and was there anything else that you added?
Infrared sauna was something I've been doing for a long time, so I just continued with that. I've always loved my cold plunges. I understand that as women, we need to be mindful of when we do those, and cycles and things like that. Um,
Do you want to
I
do you want to
feel
elaborate on that? Do you want to elaborate on that for the audience who may not know about that?
Yeah, so I'm not a science. I don't know the particulars, but I do know that as an individual, I need to be mindful. For example, and I think it's more about how you feel as well. I actually went in a cold plunge the other week, and I was close to my cycle, my period beginning, and I hadn't had any pains. I went in a cold plunge and I instantly was feeling cramps. So to me, I was like, I can't do that today or probably
Mm,
tomorrow." So I think really listening to your body. Um, Before I sort of understood that, I just thought, push through the pain. It's just cold plunges. They're painful anyway. They're hard. But
mm,
I, I think as women, and whether it's cold plunges or anything that we do, we really need to be mindful and listening to our body. That's actually probably one thing that I've learned as well, is listening to my body, which is something that I was never great at. I would always go and exercise. I would always push my body. But these days, especially because I do still have stage 4 endometriosis, if I don't feel well, I'll take that day to rest.
mm.
So,
Yeah, I mean that's that listening to your body is almost the basis of what I do,
yeah.
right? So so I use what's called the four doctor model, which was
Hmm.
developed by Paul Chek, and the concept is that you have four doctors that live within you, and they're the best doctors for you to consult with. So one is Doctor Happiness, so understanding what brings you happiness, right?
Love that.
Um, Number two, Doctor Quiet is all about sleep and rest. Like how much rest does your body need? How much sleep does your body need? Check in with yourself and assess. where are you right now?
Mm.
Right. So, I mean, yesterday I had a 14-hour work day with a 30-minute rest. Right? Just what I didn't plan for that, but that's kind of what happened. Um, so I know this weekend I'm going to really chill
Yeah.
out. Right.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to do anything. I
Mm.
might go for I'm really lucky. I live right on the edge of loads of countryside. I'll probably go for a bit of a walk, but that's relaxation for me.
Yeah.
So there's Dr. Quiet, and and if you don't get enough rest, your body's is going to break down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Physically, mentally, emotionally. Dr. Movement. How much movement does your body need today, and how intense does that movement need to be? Right. I'm training really hard at the moment because I've just finished tennis season, so I'm not playing for 4 months. So what I do is I get in the gym and I just try and get as strong as I can so I can survive the next season.
Yeah.
So I'm doing 4 sessions a week, really intense. I'm in week 2 at the moment. Day 4 is today, so fourth workout of the week. Feeling a little bit of tension in my left kind of upper trapezius area. So my body's saying to me, okay, maybe don't go quite so hard today. Just take it a
Yeah.
little bit easier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Dr. Diet is all about what do I need to nourish me today? What kind of foods do I eat? Well, you should always go for good quality food. That's a given.
Yeah.
But how much protein does my body need today? How much good fats does my body need today? How much carbohydrate does my body need today? And check in. Now that does come with experience as well, and that's a quite a big process I take my clients through, is getting them to be able to tune in to what their body needs nutritionally. Now, and
Mm.
it starts with diet sheets and monitoring reactions to their meals. And over time, you start to build that experience of knowing what your body needs. And we're all different. We all need different things.
Mm. Yeah.
Listening to your body is a really crucial tool. And also what that does, that empowers you to look after your own health rather than perhaps relying on someone you know, who wears a white coat to tell you well, they probably wouldn't even tell you what you need to do. They'd probably tell you what you need to take or inject or have cut out your body, right? So
Exactly.
to take empowerment for your health rather than giving it away to someone else is 99 times out of 100 the best way to go, in my opinion, anyway.
Definitely. And I think that's something that I wish that I knew and I did at the beginning of my journey. I had amazing doctors and support system in that way, but I feel that I didn't look at other things that could have, or I didn't maybe do the research that I needed to, because I could have maybe found the endometriosis sooner, which means that things weren't pushed back. Things would, instead of taking 3 years, we could have done it for a period of time. There's so many things, what ifs, right, in life, and what could I have done differently. But I think moving forward, you're exactly right. For me too, in many ways, I was very strict with my diet. You just mentioned diet, and many times I was very strict with my diet, and I would starve myself of things. If I wanted a piece of chocolate, I would not eat that piece of chocolate. But I do think that life is about balance too. And if you starve yourself of those things that you love, you're going to end up binging, and that's not good. So that's something I've learned as well, and just having
Mm,
that balance, but understanding what is best for my body. How
mm,
how do I feel the best? When do I feel the best? What do I put in my body when I'm feeling the best? What tools am I using? I've mentioned red light and infrared. Using that daily. That has changed my world completely. So moving forward from just recovering, I actually implemented that into my everyday, and that's something that I'll do forever now.
mm. Yeah, a word you said there really sprung out at me, and the word was strict. And the reason it jumped out is because um, I was consulting with someone the other day, and they listen to this podcast actually, so they might realize who they are. And when I asked them a question, something along the lines of, is there anything that you think might get in the way of you being successful? And the answer was something along the lines of, well, for instance, if you gave me a diet that was too strict, that might be a problem. And that just, I just had like these alarm bells going off in my head. And my response to that was, I don't like the word strict. And what I explained to them is that the way that I work is that I help the person develop their own core values,
Mm.
right? And within that, you can build in a certain amount of, don't like the wording, but like cheat meals or cheat days. Again, I'm not into cheat meals or cheat days,
Yeah.
but it's about setting those core values that are going to enable you to achieve the result that you want to achieve, but also give yourself a little bit of leeway. That's probably a better word than cheat days or cheat meals.
Yeah.
So, you know, I eat pretty good food, right? Really, really high quality food. I eat the right kind of, fats, proteins, and carbohydrates that's right for me. That gives me lots of energy. I can
Yeah.
do what I need to do. But occasionally I'll eat out, occasionally I'll eat out and it won't necessarily be organic. It might even have some seed oils in it. I love Indian food. I love Thai food. It's probably going to be some seed oils in it, but I do that
Mhm.
so, irregularly that it's not going to actually prevent me from achieving my ultimate goals. Um, so as long as you have that leeway in your own core values, but they're not too far so that they're going to actually prevent you from achieving your goals. It's really easy to. Oh no, let me rephrase that. It makes it much easier to make the right decisions
Yeah.
because it's not like, oh, I can't have this, I can't have that. It's like, well, yeah, I can have it, but I'm going to have it once a month rather than or every other day. And the other thing is as well, again, when you get your diet right, you do tend to stop craving things,
Mm.
or
Exactly.
or you
Exactly.
stop being hungry all the time because you're managing your blood sugars because you're eating right for you. You're
Mm.
eating the right amounts of fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. So you're managing that blood sugar level.
Well, it's all about getting out of the habit, right? We talk about how you can get into habits, but also how can you get out of habits? And if eating a bad diet is a habit, it doesn't take long to break that habit.
Mm,
And you're exactly right. When you're eating better, you're feeling better.
yeah, yeah, and that's when you feel better, you don't want to go back to the old way,
No,
right?
exactly.
So again, it's about setting those core values, living in accordance with your core values, and it just makes everything a lot simpler. The other thing as well is, the other thing I talk about a lot with my clients is about your comfort zone. So for some people, it might be, their comfort zone is they come home from work. The first thing they do is they pour a glass of wine, they have their dinner, they turn the TV on. Now that's, maybe it's chocolate, ice cream, crisps, whatever. That's their comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
Well, chances are that's not working for them. Otherwise, they
No.
wouldn't be coming to see someone like me.
Yeah.
So, one thing I say to a lot of my clients is to achieve something amazing, you need to step outside of your comfort zone. And stepping out your comfort zone is uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And what you need to do is get comfortable feeling uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right? Which is, we're talking about cold plunging and infrared saunas. They can be uncomfortable, right? Going to the gym, working out is uncomfortable. But
Yeah.
stepping out your outside your comfort zone is really where the magic happens. And like you say, once you make those changes, you break those habits and you start to feel better, the chances are you won't want to go back to the old habits that didn't make you feel good.
Well, you can see what you can achieve. And
Mm,
life is about living your values and core values and what are your values. And when you break those bad habits and you see what your life can be and the best version of you can be, you won't want to go back to that.
mm, yeah, yeah, definitely. So again, we've spoken about a range of holistic therapies like infrared sauna, red light therapy, acupuncture you've mentioned, and others. How did these modalities, first of all, support your recovery? And what role did the deeper self work and mindset shifts play alongside them?
Mm.
Pain can feel hopeless when nothing seems to make a difference, but pain always has a cause. And when you find the cause, you can influence the outcome. I help people uncover the biomechanical, nutritional, emotional, and lifestyle factors keeping them stuck and guide them towards lasting relief. If you're ready to understand why you're in pain and what to do next, book a discovery call with me at bodycheck.co.uk/consultation. That's bodychek.co.uk/consultation. Now, let's get back into the show.
I think these tools that I put into my everyday life, or at least 3 times a week, to help me recover, as I said, recovered externally. So when you go through a trauma like that or IVF, your body is completely different. So externally, working on my strength, and even now I'm still trying to get my core strength back. Internally, all of the trauma that your body goes through internally. So having those tools to help me with that. But I would say the biggest thing for me is mentally. And I often talk about mentally, I had to understand, I had to really put myself in a place where I would sit in what happened. And I think that's something that people can't often do, is when we go through these situations or life changes, people can often just want to forget about it. I actually had a conversation with a practitioner, and they were saying, look, we can do things that will help you forget what happened, help you to forget the event. And I came home and I said to Paul, as great as that would be, and being able to go to sleep and sometimes not have that feeling of not being able to breathe or replaying what happened, that's part of my story. That's part of my journey, and that's part of the person that I now am. That's helping to drive me, and I really sort of sat in that and thought, why would I want to forget what happened? Yes, that's an easy fix for me, but I need to, as you said, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I really had to make that mind shift to understand that what happened to me happened for a reason. I often talk about that it was very difficult, and I mentioned this before, you feeling like a failure and things like that with the IVF. I, at the end, had to really understand that I probably would never become a mother in the traditional sense. And that was really difficult for me, to feel that I'd let Paul down especially, and that I couldn't do that for us. Then I grew to understand that my purpose in life may not be to be a mother in the traditional sense, but to do the things that I'm now doing, and to have these great conversations, and to build a wellness brand, and to be able to help people. That's what I think helped drive and to help me recover as well. Once I got to a place, it wasn't easy for a long time, and it didn't happen overnight. But also to understanding that there are still things that could trigger me, but understanding if I do get triggered, how do I work through that?
Mm, yeah, interesting. There's something I'm going to talk to you about offline afterwards
Okay,
about that.
awesome.
So, your business, Elysium Wellness,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, as you just said, that really was inspired by the experience that you went through. What's your vision for the business, and where do you see that going in the future?
It's pivoted a lot and changed a lot over probably the last 6 months, which I feel as a businesswoman is very exciting to me. It doesn't scare me that it's changing and it's changed. Um, in the future, I think having amazing partnerships such as the one that we've just launched with Lumaflex, and creating and providing tools for or modalities for people that can use these things at home, because wellness can be very confusing to people. If you talk about wellness to someone that doesn't actually really do wellness or know wellness or practice wellness, they sometimes can think that you have to go to a recovery studio or a gym, or you have to go somewhere to practice wellness. Whereas I really want to shift and that focus, and for people to understand that wellness is what you make it. Wellness is what makes you happy, as you said, Dr. Happy. You know, what it does for you and how does that fill your cup? And having these things that people can actually use at home as well. So not only going for a walk or doing simple things like that, but having devices such as red light therapy, which when I was using it 2.5 years ago, I wasn't able to bring that home and use it every day. Whereas now we have that technology that we can do that.
Mm.
So continuing on that journey and providing those things, but also opening up wellness studios for people to actually experience that. So having both, you come to the wellness
Mm.
studio and you can also take these things home to use at home as well.
Yeah, so just for the audience, LumaFlex is a red light device that's flexible, so you can literally like strap it on certain parts of your body. I had the founder on my show, I think a couple of years ago now. I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was.
So
Yeah.
I have a device. You know, it's really good. Um, some of you will know I've had a little bit of issues in the past um, on my left knee that I think that certainly helped with my knee. I've lent it to clients and they were like, "Wow, didn't think it could do that." Um, I've lent it to a family member and she felt it really helped with. She had some ankle swelling at the time. Um, so you know, a device like that, certainly I can vouch for it because I've used it and I've got benefit from it. Um, and yeah, go back and listen to my episode with John talking about the Lumaflex. Yes, it's a really good product, and obviously, as we were saying offline before we started recording, you've got the rights in Australia and other places
Yeah, so we've just
for
partnered with
Lumaflex.
Lumaflex. Yeah, so we're the exclusive partner for Australia, New Zealand, and Pacific Islands, which is really exciting. And it's only 2 months or 3 months old. So I do, with these devices, and I think with anything really that we use in life, um, when we don't really know about these things, I've been talking to a lot of people and talking about this device in particular. And I'm not a doctor and I'm not someone that builds these devices, but what I am is someone that has used these devices in my own recovery. So like yourself, that's why I was so excited to partner with them. But I think unless you try these things for yourself, it is a scary thing to look at these new technologies and think that it could work for you. But it is
Mm,
one of those things that if you do try these devices, you understand the benefits and you will see those benefits over time for whatever you're using that for.
mm. Yeah, I mean these kind of devices. I mean, some people then they put it under the label of biohacking. Um, you know, I don't like the term hacking
Yeah.
because that normally means shortcut, and I don't think there
Yeah.
are shortcuts when it comes to health. But for
No.
me, things like, you know, red light therapy, infrared sauna, cold plunging, all these things, they're great, but they're add-ons to the basics, the foundations.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
you know, again, I'm going to quote Paul Chek. You know, what he teaches or what we teach at the Chek Institute is that you've got to have your foundations in place. So the first one is your mindset. Your
Yeah.
mind is the most important thing. We know about the placebo and nocebo effects. Breathing correctly, hydrating correctly, eating correctly, moving correctly, sleeping and resting correctly are the six foundations. For me in today's society, I almost feel like there is a seventh foundation, and that's detoxification.
Mm.
And I think I was the first person that I heard term the phrase outside in detox and inside out detox, which means outside in means minimize or eliminate your exposure to certain toxins. And then the inside out is to actually extract those toxins out of the body. So it might be like chelation therapy and things like that. But then some of these devices we're talking about help with detoxification as well. Like infrared sauna is a fantastic thing for
Yeah,
detoxification. So all these devices, I would say, are great additions to the foundations.
exactly.
But if you think, a sauna is going to solve all your issues in life, it's not. But
Yep.
they're just a great addition. And I think we were saying off air before, and you were saying, well, you're doing all these things. And I'm saying, yeah, because I want to optimize everything, right?
Yeah,
As far as I know, I'm only going to get this body once. So it carries me around everywhere,
exactly.
and it provides my brain with the nutrients to think things. So I want to look after it. I want to get the best out of it. I want to be able to take care of my doctor happiness. Now, if I've got a body that's not functioning properly, it's going to limit my ability to do the things that I want to do.
Mm,
And, that's something I see a lot. People come to me because they're in pain or they've got a certain condition. It's not really the pain or the condition they're coming to me for. It's to get their life back
yeah,
because they feel trapped. They feel trapped because their pain is preventing them from doing what they really want to do.
yeah.
So,
But also,
sorry, just to add to that, so many times my clients, when I'm going through the process of goal setting, it
mm,
comes back to the fact that they say, I want freedom. I
yeah,
want freedom to be able to do what I want to do. But
yeah,
their body, it's almost like they're a prisoner of their own body.
yeah. And just on that point as well, I think, and IVF was a major one, chasing things. I'll be happy when. I'll be happy
Mm,
when I buy that new car. I'll be happy when I have that baby. I'll be happy when I get that pay rise. But sitting in the moment, because as you said, we've got one body, and understanding that every day is going to be different. There are some days where I can run 8Ks, no problem. There are some days I can sit in a sauna and I literally just want to sit in there in complete darkness, no music, no podcast, no nothing, and just sit there. There are some days where I struggle. It's and being kind to your body as well and understanding that that's okay. I think for myself, I would always push myself and I would always get so annoyed if I couldn't do something that I could have done yesterday, but understanding that that's all part of the process.
yeah, yeah. So I've got one more question for you. So for someone watching or listening and they feel stuck, whether it's in endometriosis, pelvic pain, or the emotional weight that comes with it,
Mhm.
what's one piece of advice or encouragement that you would want them to hear?
In my opinion and my experience is, as I said before, really listen to your body, because there was a period of time that I just did not, and I pushed through, really doing the things that fill your cup and that help you to recover. There are times where I would go for that run instead of having a sleep or laying on the couch and having something on my stomach to ease that pain. That's now red light therapy. But also, don't be scared to look at different things. Don't be scared to, yes, your doctors may say this is what you need to do, but don't be scared to do your own research and to ask the questions.
Mm,
That's one thing that I probably wish that I did, is ask more questions and the right questions.
yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of a time um, I had a root canal. And for years, because it's an expensive procedure, I saved up for years to have this extracted. I also waited several years because I didn't want to have metal in my mouth. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want titanium.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually they brought out the zirconia
Yep.
implant. So they removed the root canal, and obviously most of the tooth was mercury amalgam as well. I think I had it when I was like 15 years old, so it'd been there a long time as well. And so after the extraction, they put you on a vitamin C drip, and then they give you an antibiotic. And I was a bit like, I'm not keen on
Right.
antibiotics. I took them for 18 years when I had acne, so I'm not, not overly keen on them. And so I'm sat there in the chair, and the nurse has put the vitamin C IV drip in. I think about 20 minutes, and then he came in with the antibiotic, and I said, "Oh, what antibiotic is that?" And he said, "Oh, it's penicillin." And I said, "I'm allergic to penicillin."
Wow.
Now, most people wouldn't have asked.
Yeah.
They would have just gone, "Yeah, okay, plug me in,"
Plug me in.
right? I mean, if they'd have put that in my arm, they'd have been calling an ambulance within a few
Yeah.
minutes,
Wow.
right? And when I've been to hospital with parents, the doctors come, "Oh, you need to take this," and I'm like, "Well, hang a minute. What? First of all, what is that?
Yeah.
What does it do? What are the
Mhm.
side effects? How does that affect this drug?" Right? And quite often they're like, "What do you mean?" Because no one ever asks questions,
Mm.
right? That's called informed consent.
Yeah.
You can't consent to a medical procedure unless you've been informed of the pros and the cons,
Wow.
right? So that always brings it back to me, like, again, I'm sat there just about to have penicillin put into my veins, and I just say, "Oh, what antibiotic is that?" I mean, that potentially that question might have saved my life,
Ah, definitely. And
right?
I think it's one of those things as well that I look at my husband, and through our process, he now will research everything, anything that we put in our bodies. He's the one that's, "Oh, Cal, so I feel that it can flow on to people we can actually help to educate our family, our friends, and whoever you have to do with. One other thing I do want to say on the last question that you had was, don't compare yourself to others as
Mm,
well. I
mm,
think we all do it, and it's so easy to fall into that. And understanding that everyone is completely different, especially as women, our bodies are so different. So understanding that what works for someone may not work for you.
yeah, absolutely. That's what we call biochemical individuality,
Yeah,
right? We're all different. I mean, look how different we all look, right? If you look across the world, okay, we all look very differently. Why would you think that we would need the same things to, optimize our health? We don't. We don't. And I
exactly.
know that from, working with hundreds of people over almost 3 decades now, and it's very interesting. Some people might do well eating a, almost vegetarian diet. Some people might do well eating a almost carnivore diet.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
just the differences we have.
Yeah.
So Kelly, what's next for you?
Just concentrating on Elysium Wellness and the partnership with Lumaflex. So, as I said, that's the focus for now. Really building on that and then see where that takes us.
Awesome. And where can people find you online?
You can jump on our websites. You can jump on the Lumaflex AU website if you want to look at the Lumaflex device. We do have a website, This is Elysium Wellness. Also on our socials, This is Elysium Wellness. We've also got a Lumaflex AU. I wanted to keep it quite separate so people could get all of the information. The global team for Lumaflex are amazing with giving scientific information and blogs. So, yeah, definitely you can reach out. Any questions, always here. Happy to have a chat with anyone because I do know how hard this process is, and it is a conversation that not everyone is comfortable in having.
Mm, yeah, yeah, excellent. Kelly, thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a great chat, and I think it's been some really great information for people to hear. And I
Yeah.
think you've given some really good advice as well. So thanks very much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been great. So that's it from Kelly and me for this week. But be sure to tune in, same time, same place, next week on Beyond the Pain. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Pain. If this episode resonated, please follow the show, leave a review, or share it with someone you know who's been struggling. And remember, pain is not permanent. With the right insight and support, you can turn it into power. Until next time, stay open, stay strong, and keep moving beyond the pain.